Before we go too far down the rabbit hole with crafting in the secret world, I just want to do a really simple basic exercise, but this will go a long way towards explaining how crafting works in the secret world. I know there's people out there who are confused by the concept of blueprints and components and all of that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, once you get the core concept of how crafting works, it's quite simple. And the best way I've found to demonstrate this is to reverse engineer an item. So what we're going to do is open the crafting window by pressing Y on your keyboard. Now, if your crafting window doesn't look like this, don't be surprised. I'm running a plugin right now which has added a whole bunch of additional features. So ignore everything inside this box. Okay, that's part and parcel of the Ultimate Crafter plugin. However, if you are interested in this plugin and other plugins, then click on the link that's come up right now for plugins. That'll take you off to another page and you can see some of the great plugins that are running for the secret world right now. Okay, so starting from the top, you'll see three windows. You'll see a very large one up there, and this is your assembly window. So if you were to build something, this is where your components will go, and it's roomy, it's very big, and the reason is in fact all items that you build in the secret world require that your components be arranged in an appropriate pattern in order for that to register as the item that you want to make, and we'll go further into that, so you'll see how that works. Now coming down to your next window here is a small one. That's your tool window. And the majority of items that you build in the secret world, in fact almost all of them, will require that you've got a toolkit. Toolkits are dropping in the game world, they drop in dungeons, they drop in the game world itself, all of that sort of stuff. And you'll find them in Nightmare dungeons as well. So we'll take a look at those as we go. Now this bottom window down here has a dual purpose. If I was to lay out all my components in the assembly window up the top here, everything as required by the blueprint that I want to create, and I was to put the appropriate toolkit in the window, then I will see a copy of the item that I'm wanting to craft appear in this window, and if I mouse over I can see the stats on the item, the details of the item, all of that sort of stuff. So it's a feedback window to show you what you'd be creating if you were to go through and complete construction, and I'll be hitting assemble at the bottom here if that's what I wanted to do. However, if I was to drop an item in that window, the reverse also applies as well. I'll see up the top here a copy of the components that I'd get from disassembling or deconstructing this item, and the pattern that they're actually lying in, and that's what we're going to do right now, and that's going to explain a lot of how the secret world works. Okay, so I've got three weapons here. There's some accurate dual pistols, I've got a blade, and I've got a devastating shotgun. Now just looking at this pistol right now, it's QL10, it's the highest level item that I can assemble or disassemble in the game. It's green quality, so it's pretty common. You'll have these dropping around in the game world if you were running around in, I think, in the Carpathians or some parts of Transylvania, and also in Tokyo at the moment. And if I look a little further down, I'll also see that it's got an accurate glyph crafted on it as well, which gives it an additional 101 hit rating, plus 101. So that's the item right now, as it is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this and drop it in the disassembly window. And what I can see from doing that straight up is if I was to hit the disassemble button, notice how that switched from assemble to disassemble, I'll get 7 pieces of sacred metal. And I'll also get a sacred wheel rune, or 4 of them. Anybody who's ever built a glyph before knows that you need 4 runes to build a glyph. Now that mirrors the glyph here. You see here we've got a plus 101 hit rating on this weapon. That's the disassembled glyph, that's the components for that. Now if I was just to build a weapon, I wouldn't put those items on there. I'd be building the glyph separately and then binding it onto the weapon. We'll do that a little later. In fact, you should see a link for that come up right now. But when the reverse applies, you'll see the materials that you'll get from disassembling the item, and you'll see any additional stuff that may come up from glyphs or whatever the case may be on there as well. So that's what I get. So what I can tell visually from putting this weapon in here straight away is that weapons are built from metal. Metal is the core component for building a weapon. Okay. And you'll also notice that it's assembled in a pistol pattern, more or less. There's the handle going up there, there's the barrel of the pistol, there's the trigger. Well, let's just test this theory. So I'm going to take this blade, QL10, drop it on here. Same amount of metal components, but you notice it's organized into a blade pattern. And we've got crit runes running down here as well. This blade has got a plus 118 critical rating. That's the equivalent of a QL10 glyph down there at the bottom. Now one thing, whenever you disassemble, the materials that come up tend to be one grade lower than the materials required to actually assemble that item. So you do lose a lot in translation. However, actually before we do that, let's just one more time test it just for the sake of redundancy. That's a shotgun, and you see that is more or less a shotgun shape. If I was to drop an assault rifle, you'd see the same four across the top, but you'd see a magazine and a handle coming off down the bottom as well. It's really that straightforward in the way that these patterns work. Now, and again too, you can see the glyphs here, and they the runes here, and they correspond to the glyph that's on this weapon here as well. And I'll drop that there. Okay, so that's just looking at weapons. What do we know about weapons so far? We know that weapons are built from metal. So if you're intending to build a weapon, then metal's the component that you're looking for, and you'll need 7 pieces of metal in order to build that weapon. Okay, don't worry about those runes that came up. They were only the deconstructed glyphs that were on there, and you'd be building your glyphs separately. You wouldn't be putting them onto a weapon during assembly, during the time that you're assembling that weapon. Now, what I'd need to build this pistol, for example, I'm going to drop it in here, would be 7 pieces of metal, but like I said, it always downgrades the quality of the component that you're using. So I'd need 7 pieces of pure metal. That's the next grade up from that metal. And I'd need to assemble it into a pistol pattern. If I wanted to make a green pistol, I'd drop a green toolkit in here. If I wanted to make a blue or rare higher quality pistol, I'd drop a blue toolkit in there, a weapon toolkit. And that's weapons. Now let's take a look here at equipment. I've got a belt, I've got a bracer, and I've got a necklace. Okay, a bracelet's a wrist piece of jewelry for anybody who is under 20, I don't know. It doesn't play RPGs. Here we go. I'm going to start with this necklace here. Okay, its basic stats are 826 health, 90 attack rating. More health. It's a tanking item. And down the bottom there you'll see all the glyph componentry as well. It's got a little bit of block. It's got a lot of magical protection. So I'm going to drop it in this disassembly window. Now, first thing first you'll notice is that it's built out of water. Anything that has hit points on it as a key component, as a tank item, is built out of water. And it's assembled more or less in a necklace pattern. So you've got the necklace part here, and then you've got the emblem, what do you call it? You know, the little dangly bit on your necklace hanging down the bottom here. So I'll take that out. That's necklaces. I'll drop the bracer in there. And again too, you see this is water, and these are your glyphs, but it's in a bracelet sort of pattern. Okay, so if you're ever out there and you've just dropped a toolkit and you're thinking, all right, if this is a higher grade than the talisman I'm using right now, I'm going to build myself a bracelet straight here and now. I've got the components to do it. That'll save me a trip back to London trying to buy these items, but I can't remember what the blueprint is. The easiest thing to do is just find that item in your inventory, drop it in the disassembly window, and you'll see straight away the pattern that you need in order to build that item. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 components of water, and again to just ignore the glyphs there. If I was to build a heal item, an item that had a heal rating on it instead of hit points, I'd be using dust, pure dust, sacred dust, all the way down to base dust. And if I was to build a DPS item, I'd be using fire. Let's take that out. One last item. Yes, you can make your own potions. So I'm going to drop this in here, and straight up I can see that this is made out of dust. Okay, this is a healing potion. If I was to get consumable toolkits and drop a consumable here, and I dropped, for example, metal in this window here right now, I'd get a barrier potion as opposed to just a straight out healing potion. And if I dropped water in as a component instead of dust, I'd get a heal over time potion. So that's disassembly, but that also explains how patterns work, what patterns look like, and if you're ever trying to make an item, but you're just not sure what either the pattern or the componentry is in order to make that item, find an item in your inventory that corresponds with what it is you're trying to make, drop it in the disassembly window and you'll see the pattern. Whether it's QL0 right through to QL10, you will get exactly the same pattern, you'll get exactly the same amount of components. It's the quality that will change.